So, I find it funny how the progressive left, the leaders of civil rights, the arbiters of anti-racism, are becoming what they swore to fight. They are bringing truth to the phrase, you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. So many higher educational institutes around the United States are participating in segregation, the Daily Signal writes. Segregation is back, and it's coming from the left. Integration used to be a major goal of the civil rights movement, but today in many places resegregation is a growing trend, particularly on college campuses. A new National Associations of Scholars report finds that 7 out of 10 colleges surveyed are having separate graduations for those of certain racial or ethnic backgrounds. So this is Daily Signal's uh, interview with Don Perrier from the National Association of Scholars, who kind of gave some remarks on what was going on in these colleges. And here's a quote from him from the interview. At the National Associates of Scholars, we surveyed 173 colleges and universities across the country and found that 71%, 125 of them, have some version of ethnical separate graduation. In fact, Harvard has a separate Latinx graduation. Brown has a Black Literate. Columbia has both Black graduation and Raza graduations. These ceremonies are held in addition to the mainstream campus-wide consummates, and attendance is voluntary, but they're so popular nowadays, most students take them for granted. So, the problem with this is everything starts on a college campus before it makes its way out to our public institutions. Many generations are indoctrinated with these ideologies and practices, which are then gradually introduced into the public institution through education, political positions, and nonprofit foundations for activist movements. What is happening in Minneapolis is also a result of ideas taught in higher education systems that the only way to correct past civil rights violations is to inflict civil rights violations. So the Daily Mail writes, Fury, as Minneapolis Teachers Union negotiates clause requiring white educators to be laid off first, regardless of seniority, to make up for past discriminations. Rule is part of a contract that ended 2-week strike this past March. Scroll down here a little bit, huh? A new contract between Minneapolis public schools and teachers unions has caused outrage as it could see senior white teachers intentionally laid off before teachers of color. The contract says instead of teacher layoffs or relocations being decided based on seniority as typical, schools can ignore that protocol and dismiss senior staff members if otherwise a teacher of color would be laid off. The agreement was reached in spring of 2002 after a 2-week teacher strike and what was spearheaded by Minneapolis Federation of Teachers President Greta Callen, not to be confused with Greta Thunberg. Many have called the deal unconstitutional and accused it of addressing past racism with more racism. It reads, if accessing a teacher who is a member of a population unrepresented among licensed teachers in the state, the district shall access the next least senior teacher who is not a member of the unrepresented population. The prioritizing of teachers of color over senior educators may also apply to rehiring after layoff. Jesus. So, I don't know about you. That sounds a little racist to me. But it makes sense because everything in this teacher strike was rooted in woke ideology. Greta Callen, who is the president of the Teachers Union, and Sean Langdon, who was the previous president and now the co-leader, said in an interview with the Jacobian, and this is Sean Layden, one thing that we've really tried to raise up in this campaign is that our hourly school workers, from food service workers to education support professionals who are majority folks of color, are also the lowest paid and have the least amount of say in our work and our district. If we're going to talk about equity If we're going to talk about racial justice, we have to talk about how to treat everybody in our system. And the district doesn't treat our members of color and our hourly workers with the dignity and respect they deserve. We're saying that something can be done to materially improve the lives of people, particularly groups of workers who are majority folks of color. Then Greta Callen goes on to say, this is the same fight. The fights are not separate. The majority of our students are students of color. Everything we have put on the table is a fight for Black lives, including all things Sean mentioned. Those at the top, those running our schools according to the corporate model, are really picking and choosing when they want to say they're supporting our students or educators of color. We're trying to create some systematic change right now. Our public schools have to be strong if we want to build the world that we need to see. We're all in, and we're going to do whatever it's going to take to make that change. So, Jesus. I find it funny that the white suburban mom, and someone who looks like the white suburban dad are the voices and fighters of the colored communities. Now, it's never that a person from that affected community out there speaking about the troubles that their community is facing. It's someone who has no idea about that community telling people of that community that they are victims. Odd. And here's another thing I find odd, is their strike demands. Small class sizes, better benefits, more mental health resources for students, increased workforce diversity, and higher wages. What does any of that have to do with equity and racial justice? Now, it kind of makes me feel like Sean and Greta used this strike to push woke ideology and push through a stipulation that is a clear violation of civil rights. What this also tells me is that teachers' unions are way too powerful, and we need to find a way to take back some of that power teachers' unions have. Otherwise, they will use tactics of strike to get what they want, because they know if they strike long enough, the community will push back on the state to meet their demands because their kids need to go back to school. So the question is here, how do we gain power back from the teachers' unions? Now, there is a way, and it's called school choice. So the idea of school choice varies from state to state. There are 21 states that offer school choice, but it doesn't work the way it should. It should work the way it sounds, which is school choice. Parents should have a choice to send their kid to whatever school they want. The way it should work is that the state does not fund schools. They take all the funding they would give to a public school and give it to the individual child. Every year, that child has a voucher attached to their name, and the parent of that child can then use the voucher to send their kid to a school of their choice, whether it be a private school, charter, or a better public school on the other side of the county. The voucher pays the child's school expenses for the year. This then forces schools to get competitive if they want to still exist. This will raise up demand and wages for good teachers. This will make schools demand that teachers perform at a higher level, which means a better education for the kid. This means a school with good teachers and high demand can expand, creating small class sizes because they are getting the money directly and can use the money as they see fit. Their budget for the year will rely on how well their teachers perform and the education value they can offer your kid. A school's budget will no longer rely on how well a student performs on a test. Now, Minnesota, does have school choice technically, but it needs to be revamped. Let me bring this up here. So, it's there to benefit the school, not the child. Currently, Minnesota offers a tax credit of $1,000 to taxpayers who make under $33,500. It can only be used to cover books, tutors, academic after-school programs, and other non-tuition education expenses. And if the household makes over $41,500, you can't claim that credit, which makes no sense. So, What Minnesota and other states need to do is adopt what Arizona just passed. So let's bring this up here. In a major victory for families wary of one-size-fits-all approach to education, the Arizona legislature today passed a groundbreaking bill which ensures all Arizonan families can access school choice. Sponsored by Rep. Ben Toma, expands eligibility for Arizona's Empowerment Scholarship Account program to every family in the state. ESAs, which Goldwater pioneered in Arizona more than a decade ago, put money that would otherwise go towards a given child's public education into an account that parents can use to customize their child's education experience to best meet their unique needs. The ESA program has gone from serving 100 students in 2011 to more than 10,000 today. And if Governor Doug Ducey signs HB 2853 into law, more than 1 million students will be eligible for the program. So, what does the bill do? It expands eligibility for the Empowerment Scholarship Account program to every family in Arizona. Families would receive over $6,500 per year per child for private school, homeschooling, learning pods, tutoring, or any other kinds of educational services that would best fit their students' needs. Any child who wishes to opt out of their local public school or who already has would be allowed to join the ESA program under the bill. Many families currently make financial sacrifices and shoulder the expense of private school tuitions or paying for homeschooling supplies. These families are all currently entitled to send their child to a public school at a cost of over $10,000 per year to taxpayers, regardless of their income. The bill would ensure that all families have the freedom to choose whatever form of education best fits their child. Not bad, man. I like that. Now, if you were saying, what about public schools? This would drain funds away from them. They say no. Does this drain our public schools of funding? No. No, the ESA program simply ensures that teacher-student funds follows the student, just like it already does each time a student leaves a public school for a different public school, using the state's open enrollment options. Unless you believe the student should be required to attend a particular school district, no matter how poorly it would serve the child, simply because the zip code the child's family lives in, then you already support the idea that funds should follow a student. There we go, huh? I think that fixes the problem with the teachers' unions. This takes away the power of education from the teachers and puts it in the parents' hands. If a school is pushing woke ideology onto students and the parents don't like it, they can simply take their kids out of that school and the money comes with them to another school. If the teachers' unions want to strike for whatever reason, which is now burdening you and your child, cool, let them. But now you can say, my kid will no longer be attending this school. I have enrolled him into a private school and the money comes with them to that private school. Now, if you're saying, this will take away good teachers from our public schools, there is already a teacher shortage as it is. Yeah, probably, but no, Florida is trying to fix that problem. DeSantis announces 3 proposed initiatives aimed at Florida's teachers' recruitment retention. Governor Ron DeSantis announced 3 initiatives aimed at recruiting and retaining teachers in Florida, which will be proposed during the next legislative session. DeSantis said the initiatives include Governor's Recruitment Program, which will focus on veterans and first responders with bachelor's degrees. It'll waive the fees. Those who take part will be eligible for a $4,000 bonus and another $1,000 depending on the subject they teach. Teacher apprenticeship programs allow Floridians with an associate's degree to get experience in the classroom under another teacher for 2 years, then go on to get their bachelor's degree. Mentors get $4,000 for every apprentice. That's actually pretty cool. New scholarship programs to help current high school teachers to earn master's degree to teach dual enrollment classes at their current schools. All right. That's not bad. It's good incentives, right? So DeSantis also approved an $800 million bill to increase teacher pay. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis approves $800 million to increase teacher pay. Minimum teacher salary in Florida will now be $47,500. So just underneath $50,000 for an entry-level job. Not bad. Not bad at all, dude. So let's end this segment out, huh? Arizona and Florida have offered solutions to the educational problem in the United States, or at least are trying to fix it, right? And if you are like me, you're probably wondering why none of this has been tried yet. People have been talking about this for years, but the Democrats have been against it because they say school choice is racist, and only professionals who went to our institutions should be able to teach. Forbes writes, the racist history of school choice. It would be unrealistic not to acknowledge that that far too many of our public schools are troubled with low performance due to a variety of factors. That understandably prompts many parents and guardians to seek alternatives. But if we truly want to ensure equitable education, those schools should be targeted for true reform, meaning investments in faculty development, leadership development, social and emotional learning, wraparound services, and other supports that would strengthen those schools and make them safe. Welcoming high-quality learning environments. What we should not do is take money from those troubled schools and put it into private schools, a too frequent practice often referred to as school choice that has historical racist foundations. We are less than 6 months into 2001, and to date, school choice legislation has been introduced into at least 20 states, half of which are in the South. Okay. Most of these bills prompt tax credits, school vouchers, or education saving accounts. All of them drain money from underfunded, under-resourced public schools into private schools, and while some proponents of these bills say they will improve education opportunities for Black and brown students, and students from low-income families, the truth is that they do not. Moreover, these kinds of laws have their roots in history of racism and school segregation. So I don't understand the logic there. Black and brown students will be able to attend any school that white students go to. If anything, this helps end segregation. Or at least the form that they're saying is taking place. So, MSNBC writes, why Florida's plan to recruit veterans as teachers is troubling. Fuck, dude. Florida is struggling to hire teachers, and Republican Governor Ron DeSantis' regressive influence on the state's education system, affecting signage on the wall to class curriculums, is arguably a prime factor. But the DeSantis administration declines to look inward to assess why so many teachers have left their jobs. Instead of pushing a dubious quick fix, hiring military veterans without degrees to teach, Florida's education department announced last week that it will give veterans 5-year temporary certificates while they finish their bachelor's degree. Vets must pass subject tests and have complete 60 college credits, around 2 years or 4 years degree program, to obtain the certificate. Teachers' unions across Florida have come out against that policy, saying hiring unqualified teachers would be harmful to students and their rights. Okay. This is a bad, potential, sinister idea that deserves intense scrutiny. So let's start off with the fundamental truth. On its face, a teacher's having served in the military isn't necessarily a bad thing. But what makes the plan especially grim is DeSantis likely sees the policy as part of his efforts to inject nationalistic propaganda into Florida's schools. And they're just so afraid of him, man. I don't understand it. So, why is there so much pushback from the left on this, huh? The solution will help so many kids, especially underprivileged kids. And I will kind of give you my opinion on why they're possibly pushing back on this. They label school choice as racist and Florida's approach as harmful because they require control of your children. If you have a say in where your child attends school, they no longer have control over you. If you don't like what they teach your child, you can threaten to remove your child from their school system, which means that teachers who groom children no longer have that option because you can get the school to intervene and either stop the teacher's behavior or remove the teacher entirely. If enough parents band together, they can control the curriculum, which means that banned books like Tom Sawyer and To Kill a Mockingbird are no longer banned. CRT is no longer promoted, and young minds are no longer indoctrinated into socialism. Higher pay for teachers will attract more people to the job, but incentives such as those for veterans and first responders, scholarship programs, performance bonuses, and mentor pay will attract people other than failed college kids who majored in psychology and minored in basket weaving and now believes the government should pay off their student loans because they're $100,000 in debt and believe the government should take care of them. This will keep those types of teachers out of schools, which is something they cannot have. They require your children. That is their future voting base. Indoctrinate them when they are young so that when they are 18, they will vote progressive. They will vote for progressive candidates. Because they have grown up learning that the only way America will improve is if the government has more power. But hey, what do I know? I'm just rambling here, right?